general fund number we are looking at from, this is the auditor number, correct?
That's ours,
That's
based off
ours.
of last year's audit, and then ours based off the proposed budget is right below it.
You can answer. It doesn't have boxes around, so I can't track it.
You guys wanna steal Nick's thunder, this is like Nick's Super Bowl, so
Yeah. Oh, it is.
So-
let Nick shine here for a moment.
The general fund, cash reserve was 3.5 million, 3,511,226.
And the point that they wanted us to hit.
And the auditors recommend a cash reserve in the general fund of 2,760,000. And, you know, we obviously support our street fund with transfers from the general fund, so we kind of look at them together. So they also recommend a $1,015,000 street fund. So we kind of look at those together.
Okay. So we're pretty close.
Yeah. We wanted to use this opportunity tonight, rather than having a workshop, we were having some logistical issues of making that happen. We just wanted to kind of clear off the agenda tonight as much as we could, so that the council's an opportunity to kind of digest all of this, and then we'll, like Greg said, we'll come back with other meetings, like the public hearing, and take comments from the public. We just need to know if there's any major course corrections you want us to make. The administration needs to know sooner than later, because it can be very time intensive to make those corrections, because there's a lot of cogs in this machine.
Well, the first thing I would say is thank you, Nick and Greg, for putting it all together and very cohesively, like last year, very easy to understand and follow. I think especially if the public wants to just pop this open and look at it, you've laid it all out very clearly, so thank you for that. Secondly, I think lowering the levy is a great thing, moving in the right direction with that. So, well done.
Yeah, cause how many years has it been since we raised the levy like we talked about?
We haven't raised the levy and
We've lowered it
I
twice
mean,
since
yeah.
I've been mayor. First one was after the last LB 840 vote, and we did a half cent for the program, and that was to add $75,000 to economic development, and then the rest was to reduce reliance on property taxes. So the year after that passed, we reduced it to the level it was at like 10 years prior. And then when the airport authority had increased their levy, because theirs was added in with ours, we lowered ours, so that when you added them together, there wasn't an overall increase. So we kind of did them a solid that year.
I mean, I think it's responsible of us to do that, and I think it's respects the taxpayers and where they're at right now, so I'm supportive of it.
Especially with the valuation increases.
And one thing to keep in mind, and just to kind of foreshadow, we are gonna have that LB 840 economic development plan is gonna be up again in a couple of years. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is that that passes, because a good chunk of that is what's allowing us to keep our property tax levy low. If that were to fail in a couple of years, we would have a serious problem trying to, one, we'd have to slash departments and lay off a lot of people, because, you know, to make up what we have on sales tax with property taxes require, basically we have to max out what we're allowed to raise, because you're only allowed to raise your levy so much every year. We'd have to basically max that out for a long, long time to try and make up the difference. And so we're able to keep the levy low, and it's probably gonna be one of the lowest in the state, especially for communities our size, because of that sales tax. And the sales tax is, in my opinion, preferential, or because we have a lot of people that come into Seward that spend money that don't own property, and that way they all can share in those expenses. It doesn't just fall on property owners. So that's why this was, we're able to do that. We're fortunate. We have a community that continues to grow, continues to see investment. Aloe coming to Seward is an example of that. And so we're very fortunate where we are, and our growth is consistent. So we're in a good place right now. Any other questions?
I was just say, what else do you need from us?
Tonight, we do need to have a discussion about comparability. I have a memo for that, go over quickly. We would like, if we can get any clarity on that one, we did get a recommendation from Personnel Finance and Audit, and if we're ready to move on to that, that's the only thing I really would like some input tonight. Other than that, if you see something in rates, because that makes a significant move. If you're dead set that you have an issue with the 15% increase or 0% increases or anything else, let us know sooner than later. If there are capital, for instance, Councilmember Hendricks, if there are capital items off a year or so that you're not seeing on there that you might want us to investigate, like a change to that concession stand versus a renovation, a wholesale. Some of those things we can adjust and put in there or have a discussion about between now and the next one. Like I said before, that September or August 30th is looked at if we have major issues and we need to have a discussion and get together in 2 weeks and sit down and put pencil to paper and do stuff. Let's get to work. We're willing to work. We'll drag in the department heads we need. If you don't see anything significant, we'll look to bring it back on the 6th. But we need to have it relatively set, especially this comparability issue that we're gonna get into. Because it just affects everything. Totally throws everything out of whack if we don't.
Everybody good?
Yeah, let's look at comparability.
Okay. I distribute really quickly a memo that I did for comparability. I'm gonna, unless you wanna do something significantly different, we're gonna have a discussion about $40,000. Because that's the difference between the two proposals, approximately. So, as you know, during odd years, we're required to have a professional involved in this process for comparability. And comparability is the comparison of our wages to comparable cities of similar size, basically twice the size or half the size of the city of Seward. Every now 5 years, we have that done by a professional. We review that information and make adjustments, but in the intermediate years, the administration does that comparability. What it looks at essentially is the combination of wages, health insurance contribution, and retirement contribution, known as an hourly rate value, HRV. And what you want to see is that you're between the 98th and 102nd percentile of the midpoint combination there. I have an incredible spreadsheet that has all these in every single position. Our comparables are Crete, York, Wahoo, Schuyler, Gretna, Beatrice, Fairbury. Oh man, I got some commas missing here. Sorry, I wrote this quickly. Plattsmouth, Blair, Nebraska City, Aurora, and Wayne. So those, again, are comparable communities, twice the size or half the size of the cities. And we did have some adjustments that were needed, and these adjustments were presented to the Personnel Finance and Audit Committee on August 9th after they were reviewed by the mayor in his offered budget. In the mayor's offered budget, the initial recommendations include comparability adjustments to all of those job descriptions you see there. And so I won't list through all of them, you can read through them. Significant ones I would point out, and you'll see this later, but police, especially police officer 1, officer 2, and then utility maintenance worker 1. The utility maintenance worker is, we're seeing with certified positions like that where you have to have a certification, so you have to be operator 1, and ours is water wastewater, so you have to have both certifications to operate those systems. That they're becoming more and more in demand. So we currently have an operator 1 open right now, no certifications at all. Everybody that applied for the job, none of them are certified. So it's going to take considerable time and effort for us to train them up and certify them. And so it's very similar, almost like to training police at this point. That's what we've really got ourselves into. And these are state certified specifications, and they're actually, with the wastewater system coming on board, they're going to rise for us. So they're going to have.
Sorry, I could not take it anymore. I was
No.
freezing.
I thought I said something wrong. I don't have to.
God.
And so those are the predominant ones, but we've seen you see it in groupings here. Clerical workers, there's a significant jump. Some of our mainline workers, like property maintenance workers, that would be public properties, recreation, and then streets as well. We're kind of listed in there. And so the mayor's proposed budget is offered. It increases anywhere from 50 cents to $8. I'd only note that the $8 is technically me. And while I'm sitting here, and I don't like to sit here and talk about this because it's weird, and personnel and finance audit had to deal with me, and the mayor did as well, it was specifically asked to review this one this time. And so I proposed the information to the mayor and then the personnel finance and audit committee, and they said, no, put that in there.
I was concerned that the signature position was falling behind, and if you look at it, it's, where is the salary at right now?
96. Yeah, I'd have to pull it up, but I know, for instance, I'm lower than Aurora, Cree, York,
Right.
most of our comparables now.
And so and Greg didn't wanna bring it up or recommend it, so I kinda took the initiative on that, so if I wanna get mad, somebody get mad at me. But I was concerned that with some of these positions, how competitive that they're getting and how hard it is to find people, in the vacancy, I thought it was appropriate, to increase that so it was in line with comparability, so I'll speak for Greg, since it makes Greg uncomfortable. But yeah, if you have any questions, let us know, but again, we shoot for that 100% number, so we're in the middle of that comparability. And so that's what would be required to do that for Greg.
As a personnel committee, we were strongly supportive of that comparability increase among others, but understanding the market as it is and what we need to do and what we need to have.
So the mayor's proposed with all of those line items, and again, predominantly they're $1 an hour, 50 cents an hour, to just kind of level them out into the 100th percentile or as close as we can get. We're not shooting it way above that. Either we want to hit the 100th percentile or just above the 98th. Most of those are 50 cent and $1 an hour. Police has more significant ones, as we talked about previously. The total cost for those adjustments is approximately $111,000 across all the funds all over the place. Mostly police because of just the strict number of them we have, 12 certified officers. So that went in that way, and then once comparability is settled, the way we traditionally have done it, not the way we have to do it, is that we make those adjustments, we get ourselves in a line, and then we make the COLA adjustment after that. And the reason being is, this puts us just in the 100th percent, we'll say we're hitting 100, you put yourself in the 100th percentile, matching with your compatriots in other cities. Well, we know they're gonna move their COLA as well this year. Like I told you, the average this year is 5% in the survey we did. So come their budget, they're gonna move 5%. And so, just to stay pace with them and stay at that 100th mark, and we've had some of those last year that we made adjustments, and this year, perfectly level, 100 percentile, we hit them right on the nose. We add the COLA in afterwards. What was discussed at, and I can let the committee speak to it, was discussed and recommended ultimately at the Personnel Finance and Audit Committee, was to look at doing the COLA first at 5%, which we did, and then any items that weren't in the comparable range then were adjusted to comparability. And so that leaves, if you see the committee recommendation below, the only ones that would be adjusted are police officer 1, police officer 2, utility maintenance worker, street superintendent, and city administrator.
So, a couple things. One, the methodology difference, the way we traditionally do it is a little simpler as far as calculating for the budget purposes. Doing it the other way, I think they spent half a day trying to because the way that it works.
It was the manipulation of the way.
It's
There's
just-
an incredible, I can show it to you.
So one, from an office efficiency standpoint, the first way is simpler than the second way. It can be done either way. The second difference is, in the first way, like Greg explained, when you think that because you do the COLA secondly, that you're gonna be in line with those who are also doing their COLA, so you assume that next year you're gonna be closer to where everyone else is. If you do it the other way, the concern is that when everyone else does their COLA, the way they do it is you're automatically gonna be behind again. And so you don't really get caught up like you would the first way. Again, it's a methodology, you can choose how you wanna do it, but that's, I don't know, if the committee wants to explain it differently, that's my understanding of the two different methods.
ultimate, I'll just note that ultimately the budget you have, and I explained this to the committee afterwards in a follow-up email, the budget you have before you is what we would call the mayor's offered budget. So what you see in the budget is
The first
this,
message.
the first message. And that was because, again, the first rollout of the budget is his, and what he tells us goes, and so that's what we did, so, and that's.
Carl or Ellen, is that who's on that committee?
Yeah, that's, I was gonna say, the
Matt.
recommendation.
Don't forget Matt.
I'm sorry, Matt,
And,
you
and
too.
that was on there too.
And John?
And John.
Oh, there's
and
four people, okay.
You always forget about
Any
that.
other roll call we need? No, so the committee recommendation, that was kind of where I proposed as showing a highlight of where in that comparability would kind of highlight the troubled areas or where we're really struggling to work. And as you can see, it kind of pointed out those key positions in there that we are struggling behind in comparability without the automatic assumption of we're gonna keep pace with that COLA after that comparability. And so with the methodology behind it is that we may be knowing that we could possibly be behind already again next year, which could help for planning already for next year, knowing that that's gonna be coming in. But at the same time, it really highlights, rather than just the formula of where comparability shows up, I think it highlights where the actual, key needs may be based on comparability after that cost of living adjustment rather than before.
Anybody else on the committee thinks it was kind of,
Yeah, I just echo the comments that Josh and Carl have made, is this puts us maybe, and I think John made this comment and stuff too, is maybe we're kind of this way being pulled along with the study. Next year, we have to kind of have the, thinking that we're gonna have to make more adjustments again, versus we might be leading, if we do it the traditional way. That was just kind of our overall feeling, so.
Yeah, and my opinion on that is that comparability is a perpetual ladder, just increasing every year. People are just chasing each other as we see costs and wages go up and up and up and up. And I know I'm of the opinion that I'd rather be the one chasing rather than setting that pace.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that then we can evaluate based on our need rather than just keeping pace and saying, well, because they did it, we were going to do it. That's my personal opinion on that one. So that's where my recommendation, and I appreciate Greg and Nick going through it, was going through with the COLA first and then looking at that comparison to everybody else on where we sat, rather than doing, well, they're doing it this way with the comparability, then we add on top of it.
I feel the same way about comparability that Carl does, so I like the committee's recommendation. So-
Keep in mind, though, we are in a competitive job market here.
Oh, yeah.
So if you wanna be chasing, that's fine, but then you're gonna be chasing employees as well. And so you're gonna get to a point where you're, the only benefit of increasing is if you increase it to competitive. Otherwise, you'll always be at a disadvantage, especially when we know that everyone else is gonna be doing a COLA of approximately 5%. That's my concern, that's why I left it the way we originally did it. And I can also just tell you from a calculation standpoint, it took a lot of time for staff to do it the second way. Because you had to back out and put numbers in, and so, again, that's where I'm coming from on this. I think when you're talking about trying to attract employees, I'd rather be in the catbird seat of attracting them rather than getting what's left over after everyone else gets their pay.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing that I can support this Carl's method. I can support that. It's not the end of the world for me. I think there's an element of unfairness to it. And specifically for the police, $2 to $3 to me, when we're $6 behind the market, is probably not sufficient. Again, I'm not trying to make a wave here or make a proposal. That's my concern, is just what the mayor echoed, is we've got a problem recruiting people, and we have to retain the ones we have. $2 to $3 on the police side, I'm not sure is gonna make it. I mean, it's nice, it's great, but it's not enough.
And I'll note for perspective, because it was in the email that went out, the total budget for salaries across the board, I believe, is almost exactly at 5 million now. Is that correct, Nick? So, budget,
But the difference here between the dollars is $40,000.
$38,900.
Okay, $38,900. You couldn't give me that.
It's 995, sorry. There's the exact.
And so for a budget that size, then, I mean, $40,000 to be able to be in a more competitive position, I think is worth it. But that's where we came, how we got there.
Now it becomes more of an issue whether we want to chew it off now or chew it off later, because it's perpetual, it's going to continue.
Meanwhile, we can't fill police position, right, we can't, how many other positions may we not be able to fill if we need to, and that's just the market.
Well, and Greg, did you talk about all the police salaries, about increases?
Well, the initial one only had increases. What we get into when we increase only police officer 1 and police officer 2 is now we're starting to see that overlap get significant with the positions right above. So for instance, police officer 2 now is overlapping significantly
With the range of,
sergeant.
right,
Yeah.
And so you almost need some additional boost that's built into the mayor's offered budget, but would not be in the committee's recommendation. The committee's recommendation does have a $3 increase for officer 1, officer 2, but now we've impeded on that so that the sliding level of that, we thought we would have 2 officers that would be higher paid than a sergeant that we have.
So we did have, though, in mind,
Yes.
a dollar increase.
There's a level of increase in all of the price ones
So we're
across the
trying to
board.
keep some separation for that reason, because otherwise, I use the cable company example of, you watch the commercial, and if you're a new cable company subscriber, you get all these free benefits and everything, and then the ones that've been cable company subscribers for 20 years are like, what about us? How come we don't get those benefits? And so we're trying to make sure that as that high rate goes up for those positions, that we do have enough separation, so we don't run into a morale issue and end up losing even more qualified officers because they go somewhere else that's paying more, especially as we discussed earlier with Lancaster, Lincoln, Lancaster County, as well as Seward County, right, and York, right here. So that's kind of the arms race that Greg was referring to, is not just increasing the entry-level positions, but also the higher up positions so that you don't run into that problem.
so what are you looking for here? Direction of which one we wanna
Really
go?
like, if you feel strongly, I mean, we can wait and take it up on the 30th, it's gonna get dicey, Nick, if we wait too long into the 6th.
Well, I don't think anything's gonna change between now and the 30th.
So
We're
if
gonna,
no changes are made, the 111, 6, 7, 8 is the way it is, right?
Yes.
I'm comfortable with that, as somebody who hires like hundreds of people regularly, it's a tough market. I mean, I think any edge we can have is advantageous right now.
So Jessica, you're supporting the mayor's budget?
I am.
Okay.
I don't know how we wanna proceed through this, if we wanna.
Well, if you don't, I mean, that's the budget that presented to you. If you feel strongly with doing the committee's recommendation, then we probably want a motion or something that says we want to adopt that methodology, so then they can make the proper adjustments between now and the next meeting, so we're not kind of going back and forth. So we will leave that up to the council. If not, then we would just assume that the budget as presented is what you're gonna go with regarding comparability. But it's only gonna get tougher, unfortunately.
I mean, I think my biggest concern is the public safety aspect. I mean, I would prefer to have all of our police positions filled and have people wanting to come be here, and I think any edge you can give that, in terms of the salary is beneficial right now.
And to Ellen's point earlier about, we're still not at the same level as the county or Lincoln. We also have other, benefits as being in Seward, as a community. There are other reasons other than just money to why someone wouldn't work here. It's just not a big pool right now. And so that's one reason we didn't necessarily max out to try to be, toe for toe with the others, but I do think it's a great, I'm biased, but I think Seward's a great community, and I think there are people that wanna work here. You just don't have I think before I became mayor, I remember we started doing hiring for police officers, and there would be, 50 applicants? One we had over 80 applicants, and now to the point we had one. And some of these applicants we do get are actually headhunted by people within either the department or people that we know are in law enforcement. So it's a real problem right now, but everyone has a problem, nothing unique to us. It's a tough market.
I mean, if you need a motion that, I support the mayor's comparability offered budget, so I'll make the motion.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
I'd say,
Council?
just from my perspective of it, looking at we're operating in a budget deficit, I think in the discussion, the key points we're worried about are the police, and they're both addressed in each one. I think with the committee recommendation budget, we're looking at a difference of 38,000, which is almost 11.5% drop in that deficit spending. So rather than, by my calculations, deficit spending around $346,000, we'd be dropping that down to right over 310, which is that 11% drop. Knowing that we're gonna have to do it in the next year, but we have new houses coming in that next year for property tax, and as we develop it gives us that buffer. So that's my 2 cents on where I would stand on that one.
You have comments? So we have, the motion is John's motion is the mayor's comparability, and Jessica a second?
Yeah,
Okay,
second.
is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Coulterman, Singleton, Hendricks. Voting against, Campereth, Miller, and Streisand. 5-3.
Great, do you need anything else?
No, that gives, well, I don't think we need to make any adjustment then to the offered budget. So the offered budget, here forward, other than the levy item I noted to you, that the levy will slightly go back up to even out that revenue because of the valuation coming in lower when it was officially given to us last night. That will be the only adjustment I have as of now. If there is something major that we need to address between now and the 30th that I can bring to the attention of the mayor, that we need to have a special meeting, please let me know, privately or otherwise. And we will address that and bring it forth, and if we need to get back together, we can do that. But that is where we are as of now.
And I also just wanna thank Greg and Nick and all the staff for all their hard work, all the department heads, everyone, because this was, I know you don't see it because it's all done in City Hall and in private meetings, but they do a great job, and this is a very time-intensive process, so I just wanna thank them for all their work, cause I do think that whether you agree with the budget or not, I think the way they present it is the way that everyone can understand it and can make an informed decision, and that's really what we care about, so.
And I just
Yeah.
echo that. I mean, I know Nick sits through this with me, and but he is instrumental in the process. He is leading the process. You have to sit down, basically one-on-one with me and him, every department head, multiple times a year. We begin in April to get to this point here, and it is days upon days through different weeks of just sitting there and slogging through every single line item and asking the hard questions and looking through all the expenditures from the year and asking where stuff went and why it was spent that way, looking for savings. I mean, we're not going at it trying to break the bank. We're trying to efficiently implement the vision that you provide us as city council members and put it where it needs to be based on your priorities.
Okay. Are we good?
Thank you.
Alright, we'll move on to item number 4, update on the Wellness Center.
Yes.
When you're ready, Greg.
Wellness Center, I think we kind of covered most of it during the,
Budget, but we're gonna look at some grant opportunities here in the next couple of weeks. I do have the draft, it's in front of you, the RFQ, which we probably, need to go over a little bit because you're getting it just now, but, and then we'll need to appoint, 3 representatives to the local board that will have shared with the, school district. The interlocal board is just kind of an annual review of the process that we're undertaking to implement we had to have an interlocal partner, and so this is just a formality for us to put that on there. But they'll kind of make sure that we're using the funds for the correct purpose and in guidance with that. I believe that Jill Hochstein and Swoboda, why am I blanking on? Sean were appointed by the school district to sit on that interlocal board. And so we'll need to do those two things. I guess I can cover the RFQ real quick. We can go over that. It's not super significant, and I think this is based off some models by other towns and also some work that Mike Onabia done on the wastewater treatment plant. It just essentially lays out in the summary that we're building the Seward Wellness Center, its general location, approximate square footage of the things we identified in the preliminary plan, and then some of it's left open, noting that a total estimated build area of 61,000 square feet. All of the design shall comply with all the applicable codes and ordinances. Again, we're asking for qualified architectural design engineering firm to give us a final design and take us through bid process and then management. We'll do a selection process. We'll need to kind of identify who we want later down the line to serve on that, but I allocated later on in the selection committee some different silos for that. The selection process will be based on a statement of qualifications we'll get in. We lay out what needs to be in that, but it'll be based on, under qualifications, the depth and breadth of experience in municipal and indoor athletic facilities, approach and understanding, capacity to accomplish the work, professional qualifications, project management and administration, and the quality of the proposal submitted. I give a background of our process that got us here. Project budgeted at 18 million as of now. They will send us a letter of intent, table of contents, statement of qualifications, a list of similar work performed by the firm within the last 12 years, including project cost, project description, manager, and team. And then they'll give us very specific things on those prior projects, including the initial project cost, final project cost, project description, estimated completion date, final completion date. We want to know how good they are at telling us what they're going to build, how much it's going to cost, and then how close do they deliver upon it. So we'll get a lot of that for the projects they've done in similar ilk. We'll also ask, get photos and schematics and other graphics that are helpful. And then project organization chart, understanding of who they're teaming with, if they're using subcontractors for engineering services or otherwise. Resumes for key personnel explaining their proposed roles in the project, relevant experience. And then some technical things for liability insurance and certificate of authorization. I lay out the schedule, so if we authorize this tonight, we'll put this out for advertisement. I have a full list already of firms that are waiting to get this, but we'll also advertise it. That will start tomorrow. The statements of qualifications we do back in a month. It's just basically a little packet that says, here's some stuff we've done. We will shortlist those providers by criteria that the selection committee will go through. That should take us an afternoon or an evening. Then we will set them up for interviews on September 26th and 27th. That could be one firm, that could be 5 firms, it could be 3 firms. That is all within our purview and control. So if we feel like there's a line we want to draw and then do the interviews, that's what we do. Then once interviews are completed, we'll rescore, and then negotiation will be with the selected firm that was listed first, and try to develop a contract. And then we'll recommend that contract on October 4th. And then a notice to proceed to get started on design on October 5th. The final design looking at next spring, and then substantial completion by June 1st, 2025. That date coincides with the date of the grant, the shovel-ready grant. So we'd really like to complete this in '24, and get it all done in construction season if possible. We can do some initial work for grading, ground prep, utilities, things like that. Actually get it up and going in '24. I guess some references to some previous materials, and that's so that everybody's on the same page, and equal opportunity to apply for it. The selection committee, I just listed myself as ex officio, so I'd sit in the room, and I'm not a voting member, I'm not gonna fill out one of the score sheets, but I'll be involved in all of it. I said 3 members selected by the city of Seward, which would be by the mayor or council. We can figure this out later. 2 members selected by the school board, since they are interlocal partners. And then 2 members selected by Seward changing the game because they're the ones that technically got the shovel-ready grant. So they may have elements that are involved to help with the selection process as well. This can be amended or adjusted at any time, we're not bound to that, I just wanted to give the people that are gonna reply to that an understanding of approximately who would be involved in this. So I didn't say like random weird people that are out in the middle of nowhere. So they're all people associated with those entities in some way, shape, or how, but we're not, so again, the city reserves the right to add or amend selection committee members. I'm the point of contact, submissions go to Derek on the date listed, and that's essentially it.
I think it's really well written. Well
So,
done.
Do you want an approval or a vote to approve that?
Yep.
Right?
I'll
That
make a
would be in order.
motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes, please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camperth, Coulterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks, 8-0.
And we need appointment of 3.
so the interlocal board, we need to
Yeah.
appoint 3, and so we didn't know how we were gonna do this, what we wanted, but if people.
This is a little unusual, just because normally I would appoint people to these types of boards, but the way this interlocal was drafted, the school board picked theirs, so the council can pick yours, so I would just defer to the council in this matter on how you want to, if you want to appoint, or I guess nominate someone that you would then vote on. So,
I have a nomination.
okay.
I'd like to nominate Jessica, Carl, and Matt to be our representatives.
That's open to
Second
this,
that nomination.
second that.
oh, okay. So anyone else could nominate, but we have a motion, essentially, right? How you want to handle this? This is unusual for me.
It's fine.
Okay, and we have a seconded. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camperth, Coulterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks, 8-0.
Plugging on.
So that group will meet it predominantly will meet one time a year, as you saw in the interlocal agreement, so it's not a heavy lifting one. We'll come back in the next 30 days and make some decisions about our selections for because it's also time sensitive, you have to be able to
Show up at the meetings.
no offense, I tried to book all you guys for a special meeting, I just know how busy everyone is. It's really important that when we do the selection committee to select the design firm, that I'm gonna need on the dates identified in that, I'm gonna need you probably 3 times. 1 to score the sheets, and then 2 to do the interviews, so about 3 days, afternoons or evenings. It's not a full day worth of stuff, but I really gotta have everybody on the same page to knock that out in this timeline given. We don't wanna hold this up any longer.
Anything else on that item?
Nothing on the wellness center.
Okay. Item 5, consideration of a resolution authorizing the signing of the annual certification of program compliance form for the Nebraska Board of Public Roads classifications and standards. Greg,
This is just us certifying something the state makes us send every year.
any questions or comments, or would someone like to introduce the resolution?
I'll introduce the resolution.
All right, the resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2022-24. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camperth, Coulterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks, 8-0.
All right, item number 6, consideration of a request from the Seward County Chamber Development Partnership for the approval of special designated liquor license application for the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages at the Seward Band Shell on September 25th, 2022. Jonathan, or Greg, someone?
Yeah, really quick, this one is an event, and Jonathan can speak to the event, but due to the fact that it's at the band shell, anytime it's on city property, you have to get explicit approval for it. And we also, sometimes when we don't have a SDL applicant using it at this location, we also have to do it. So we just bundle it all together, so essentially, as long as the council approves it, we're okay.
What's the event?
Jonathan?
Yeah, it's a replacement for Ignite the Flight. We're wanting to celebrate arts and culture even more. We wanted to use the asset of the band shell, because actually from a liquor control perspective, that site sets out very well. And so we're calling it Gathering on the Bricks is really what's gonna happen on Saturday. And then Sunday, we're doing a farm to table event. We're celebrating Seward County food as well as drinks. And so it'll be a great event at the band shell. So we appreciate your consideration and support.
So does that need to be supported on the 24th and 25th, or
Nope, just the 25th. I'm just saying Gathering on the Bricks is for the kind of the weekend, but this specific event for the farm to table is on Sunday, specifically because the chefs that we're working with are very busy on Saturdays.
Okay.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any questions or comments from the council, or I'd entertain a motion?
Move to approve.
Sorry.
The motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes, please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camperth, Coulterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks, 8-0.
Administrator's report.
Oh,
What
wow.
have you been doing?
Ah, hey. Meet my,
Been sitting on your tail over
meet my
there.
friend, Mr. Pike. I was gonna ask, but I knew he'd have to stay here super long time, and him and his crew are tired still. Tim Rich Tig and I cannot give enough commendations to that water wastewater group.
They've been phenomenal.
We just had the perfect storm of issues, and I went through with them on everything, whether it was issues with pressure coming out of the water treatment plant, coming from the towers, working with our engineers. I had really detailed discussions with Mike and learned all kinds of things I never knew about water, but tried to analyze and see if there was anything that was going on, and I think it was just the combination of, it probably started with the original break on the 14-inch line, because that's a significant depressurization, and then upheaval, and then inundation of air, when you bring that system back online. And then also just the continual breaks we were getting, and then also we identified something coming out of the treatment plant that had spiked one time. We don't think that caused the long-term one, but then beyond that, add the heat. Usually when we have this level of heat without moisture in the ground, we usually see shift, and so we were also seeing shift. And so it just hit us perfectly. And then to add insult to injury, to go and isolate some of these pipes, we had to go adjust 50 and 60-year-old valves. And when these valves were being worked, I think the old approach years and years ago was, well, they're so old, just leave them alone and don't touch them and they'll stay fine. But we had to exercise them or close them to isolate these. We broke.
Did they even work?
No, well, they broke.
They broke.
So the answer is no.
No.
Whether it was broke on its own or otherwise. I got to see one. They broke in the two worst spots you could possibly think of. Highway 15 and Highway 34, right in the intersection.
That one was
We saw that.
We opened it tonight. It's completely done. And commendation to,
Way to
again,
go.
water, wastewater, and then also street helped a ton. Because they knew that these guys couldn't come back and fix a lot of these street issues, so they just came back on their own and helped them out and took care of the concrete work and stuff. Real team effort. But we broke then the one on 7th and Highway 34 as well. I got to see the valve itself. You've never seen one of these things. And the technology was just so old. It's, from a distance, it looks like the same thing. Up close, all these little nuances that make up the technology of these valves now was not present anymore. And so something as easy as a rubber O-ring that would go in there that would normally have a groove in a current one. Well, there's no groove, it's just smooth metal. And so as soon as it broke or blew out, it blew right out. And it was just shooting out in all directions out of the valve. Stuff like that. And so they also had to prioritize, and so again, thanks to anybody that had to suffer through that, or saw and called in 1,000 times, because we let those valves go because they were small leaks compared to the larger element ones we had kind of in the southwest neighborhood of town down by Elm Street, things like that. Lot of 2 and 4 a.m. calls, lot of digging stuff up in the dark. We even called in some of our help, Butsky and some of those other ones helped us. We had some that were just so unsafe because they were so deep. We had one where the water main was below an electric line, a gas line, and a storm sewer. And then it was 10 feet down. And the walls were so wet, they just kept caving in, so we had shoring in there, and a private contractor come help us. Because safety is the priority, especially when you're working with a group that's come out that much, over that many days, in the middle of the night, and is not getting proper sleep. You know, we're rife to make a mistake. So we needed to help alleviate that by getting some other crews in to help them out. But I cannot thank them enough in regards to the amount of effort they put in to keep covering it. And the way they kept their spirits up, because you go out and talk to them and they, you know, they could be down and downtrodden, you know, they understood what their purpose and why they're out there to help the community. And every single day they were doing it. And so, incredible work by all those teams. So, this is what's in the ground though. Basically everything that we fixed is cast iron. And we need to continue to work as we identified in our capital budget tonight. We have a lot of this we need to get replaced. It's 50+ years old. Me and Mike were circumspecting that we thought it might be 100 for some of these.
It could be up to.
Up to 100 years old
So like
cast
all
iron.
the work we were doing up on Pinewood, is that what we were doing? Is
No. That was the initial capital project from Meadow Lane, basically all the way to the end. We just said, Bob, fix as much as you can. You guys are qualified. You can go in and clean this up. And so that was just a normal capital project to get that done before school.
Got
The
it.
next element of that capital project will take place after the Highway 15 project, and that will be a full reconstruction by a private firm of basically kind of meddling down along with new storm sewer, or added storm sewer that we don't have currently. So they wanted to get all that taken care of, because we're gonna have traffic coming through there, in a couple of years. So that's what was going on there. No water issues up there.
Okay.
This was all down kind of in this
I just
lower
didn't know while we had
southwest.
that open if we were upgrading anything or doing.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Those are just minor fixes, but sinking areas and areas that, we're guessing the subsoils and stuff, we're just up to stuff, and so added a lot longer lifeline to climb in that section. And got out of there before school started. Commendation to Bob and his crews. I'm sure there are other things going on, but basically between water mains and budgets, we've been chasing that around, and so I'm sure there are other things I might have identified I can answer questions for.
Any other questions for Greg?
Make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Motion and a second, to register your votes. Please sway the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camper, Coulterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks, 8-0.
Alright, do you have any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action? Seeing none. Jonathan, what you got for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Thursday, September 15th, 4 to 6, we're gonna have a business after hours for Great Plains Communications. More details to follow. And thanks for the support of the liquor permit here for September 25th. Again, we'll have on the 24th, Gathering on the Bricks, working with a lot of downtown businesses to help celebrate arts and culture. So please mark your calendars, and looking forward to those upcoming events in September.
Is tomorrow, do we have Congressman Flood?
We do have Congressman Flood coming. If there are any, thank you for mentioning that, Mayor. If there are any council members that are potentially available, we appreciate actually in the afternoon, 1:30, smaller gathering at the Civic Center in the West Fireplace Room, if you're able to join us. But yeah, so actually be touring Concordia and for Rotary, so
Good.
good event in the community.
Alright, thank you, Jonathan. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second, please register your votes. Matt, do you wanna vote on that? Adjourn?
Oh, sorry about
Or do
that.
you wanna stay?
No, I thought I had it up.
We just wait the votes.
Sorry about that.
Voting in favor, Wilken, Beck, Camper, Coulterman, Miller, Singleton, Streisand, Hendricks,
I'm
8-0.
Excited. He's like,
Thank
I'm
you.
out.
A lot of drama there, Matt.